Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sunday afternoon, June 28th, um, and this is my regular weekly look at the market, the review of the market. Typically, what I do is I review the indices, popular ones, S&P and Nasdaq. Today we probably do the Nasdaq too, and then we look at some individual stocks. But bear in mind that this is not an attempt to give any particular person investment advice. It is for educational purposes only. So let's start with a weekly chart of the S&P 500. So here's a weekly chart of the S&P 500. The first thing I usually do, as you know by now, is I want to look at the moving averages. So we have a couple of moving averages. The yellow line is a 4 exponential moving average, and we want that to be above which it is, above the red line, which is the 9 exponential moving average. That is above the 30 weighted moving average. So insofar as the relationship between moving averages is concerned, we still have an uptrend. And that is being confirmed by the parabolic being below the most recent bar. In addition to that, I plotted a B, C, D triangle, especially on the daily chart. It'll become more apparent on the daily chart. There have many more bars, you know. Um, and I was hoping that it would break, well, hope, not a strategy, but it's okay to hope. I was hoping that given that triangle and what usually happens with triangles at the end of an uptrend, that the market would break to the upside, but it came down even further, as we'll see on the daily chart particularly. Right now, though, what I'm seeing here is that the body of this candle here from last week is totally engulfed by this candle. And so I could make a case for these two candlesticks making up a candlestick pattern that is a bullish harami. You might say, well, George, you're so damn bullish. I mean, given all the stuff that's going on. Well, I got to tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a bullish harami. The body of this bar is totally engulfed by this one. So we'll see. In addition to that, we can see that the 50-day moving average, there's a red line here, it's just barely perceptible, but the 50-day moving average seems to be acting as support right here. And what I pointed out on Wednesday when I did that video is that I would expect the market to find support here. Now, what is this dotted line? This dotted line is the 50% retracement of this move here, from this low to this high. So at worst, I would hope again that that we find support at the 50-day or the 50 period moving average on the weekly chart. So that's insofar as those indicators are concerned. And if we go down to MACD, I remove the other one because it makes the chart too crowded when I have all these indicators on. We can see that MACD, the standard one, which is the default one, 1226.9, is still above the zero line. So the bulls are still in charge insofar as the weekly chart is concerned. RSI 12, I put that back on. I used to use it for some time. I wanted to see what it's indicating to us. Well, since RSI 12 crossed above 40%, it was a key level, it's remained there and it's still there and it looks pretty strong here to me. Our Williams percenile, I'm using the 30, which I usually use, it still looks pretty bullish or above the magenta line. And sum of the rate of change, Jerry Appel's indicator, is still above 4%. So I have to say that all in all, insofar as a weekly chart is concerned, it's bullish. I can't say otherwise. So let's look at the daily chart. Now, on the daily chart here, we see that we have a different story. It is a shorter term chart. It's a daily chart. So you have more bars, etc. And you can see that MACD broke down here and became bearish here. So since then, it's remained in bearish territory. But if we, and also if we look at the moving averages, the four exponential moving average crossed below the 9 right here on this bar, and it's remained there so far. Now, I was saying on the weekly chart that we are looking at this 2965 level, this level here, as support, and we are hoping that we find support there once again. But right now, we are at the 50% retracement level for that move that I indicated to you. So yes, we do have parabolic as well above the most recent bars. So parabolic is telling us it's a downtrend on the daily chart, and everything else here is bearish. You know, it's downtrend because you have Williams percent are below the 40% line. You have this one here. You have RSI below the 40% line. You have Williams crossing below the 50, and you also have the some of the rate of change. So the daily chart is looking more bearish, but that doesn't mean that I sold everything. I sold Facebook, if you want to know, because it broke down and the 4 EMA crossed below the 9, and I follow my sell rule and sell it. Let's take a quick look at the Nasdaq. And the Nasdaq looks even stronger. And of course, you know, as I've said many times before, many people that I've learned from seem to think that the Nasdaq leads the rest of the market. And if that's the case, you could see that the Nasdaq is showing more strength here. The 4, the yellow line, is above the 9 above 30. Parabolic is below the most recent bar. We also have a bullish Harami here. Okay, this is the weekly chart now. We had a bullish Harami here, all right, and we have another one here. So Nasdaq is looking much stronger than the S&P, and it leads the rest of the market. So maybe this is a harbinger of what's to come. Now, MACD histogram is still above the 0 line. That's pretty bullish. And RSI 12 stays above, way above that 40% line, indicating that since it crossed here, it's been bullish territory. And you can see that there's confirmation here from these two other indicators. And if we want to take a quick look at the daily chart, we can do the same. And we can see here that on the daily chart, Nasdaq is now bumping against the 30 weighted moving average, that 30 weighted moving average here. Now, between the 9 and the 30 is usually what I look at as a buy zone on the daily chart. Between the 9 and the 30, stocks closing at that level. So we'll see that we'll see if that plays out as a buying setup. So I want to leave this alone now and take a look at some individual stocks. So we could take a look at some individual stocks on ETFs with Shaken Analytics, and let's start off with the SPDR, the SPY or the S&P 500 ETF. It's interesting to note here that it's now bumping right against that long-term average that they use. It's approximately a 200-day moving average, they say, but it's proprietary for their work. The other thing we could notice is that it became overbought here, and then it pulled back, and then bump up again and pull back again. Now we hope that it finds support at this level here. That would be around the 3,000 level on the S&P. But if you go down to some of the other indicators, you can see that the overbought oversold indicator is quite oversold now. It's rated neutral and so on. Well, let's take a look at some of the other ETFs. I have the Qs, and I use TQQQ, and you can see that it's now neutral, but since it became overbought here, it went up a bit, and now it's bumped back right down to the 21-day moving average. This dotted line is approximately a 21-day, and XLK is within approximately the same thing, within the neutral zone, and I still have that. And the XLC, which is the communications ETF. You can see they came all the way down, and it's now approaching oversold territory. And XLY, that's also oversold. Well, in case you're interested, this is a list of most of the stocks that I own. I think in one other account I have a few things, but anyway, Adobe is one. CDNS or Cadence Design is another. Has a money flow buy signal here. Dell I bought recently, and it had a nice move since I bought it. TQQQ, it's pulled back a bit, but I still own it. This is a new one, a new biotech that I bought only last week. It was oversold and it's moving up, it's trending up. We can bring up the checklist. See, most of these stocks, if I went over them again, you will see all of them are green and for every one of these. Some of them are neutral on the oversold indicator because they've moved into the oversold region here. But most all of them are green. I wouldn't buy them if they didn't look that good, So here's another one, Microsoft, Nvidia. I'm just showing you what I own at this time. Facebook I owned and I had to sell it because it hit my sell signals. And PayPal, I still own PayPal. Tesla I still own, and I have sold some covered calls against it, but you can see now that it's now becoming oversold. So it's pulled back to the 21-day average. Might see a move there. And Twilio has been screaming all the way up since I sent you guys that chart out. You remember? I sent you a chart on Twilio and I said I like that. Anyway, so that's one group of stocks you want to look at. Now I ran that screen that I've been using recently, which would screen for stocks that are basically all green, or at least mostly green, and the overbought oversold indicator is also telling us. This one, Cisco, just became optimal here. You see, it was oversold and it went up a bit on Friday. Money flow buy, relative strength buy. So that's Cisco. That's the only one in the Dow list. Let's take a look at this list. This list is the Russell, and you can take note of these, and you can see that most of these have buy signals, or they had. They have buy signals now. Some of them are early because it's oversold, but it hasn't ticked up yet. See? So take a note of the list. I don't own these stocks, at least most of them. I don't own any of these, but I'm just showing you the list here. See, it's oversold and ticking up, so it's optimal buy now. DLTH. Not all these work out, but you gotta do your own assessment. PRGX, I don't know the stock at all. It's an IT service stock. And here's Cisco. Cisco is here again. It's an optimal buy. If I had to buy one stock tomorrow from all the lists, I would buy Cisco. And I might just do that. But so that's that list. Let's take a look at another list. This is the list for the S&P, and we find Cisco again. And when you find a stock at the top of every one of these lists, I think that's a good sign, So you find Cisco is optimal. KHC, what is that? Food Kraft. But Kraft is oversold, and it really took a beating here, came all the way down. Take a note. Let's take a look at a couple more lists here. One last list. Cisco is on this list again. This is stocks in the strongest industries, and this one is Duluth Holdings, and that one is also oversold and now relative strength breakout. And Qualcomm is getting a buy signal here. It's not quite oversold. It's saying that it's early. So those are the lists that I got, folks. They don't always work out, but quite a few of them did. Take a look at Big. You remember Big was on one of those lists? It's been screaming. Let's type it in if we have time. BIG. And let's see what Big has done. It was up 27% on Friday. Anyway, have a good day, and we'll do this again, and next week we'll keep in touch.